Welcome to another episode of the Burg Podcast, where we talk about all things Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'm your host, Justin Suarez. Also known as the Hub City, or just the Burg, Hattiesburg is a bustling town in southern Mississippi. It's an educational, cultural, business, and medical hub for the region, and we're pleased to share stories from our community. On today's episode of the Burg Podcast, we have interviews with two established businesswomen whose work has changed lives in Hattiesburg. We'll also have two audio essays. In our first interview, Ella Pierce interviews a local businesswoman about her family business that provides compassionate end-of-life care.
Hello, my name is Ella Pierce for the Burg Podcast. Today, I will be interviewing Miss Jennifer Payne. Miss Jennifer is the chairman of the Art and Cares Foundation. Thank you for being with us today. First, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Absolutely. Excited to be here to talk today. I'm Jennifer Payne. I, as you said, work with the Art and Cares Foundation. I also work in brand development and community relations for the Payne Companies, which is the parent company over Art and Home Health and Hospice.
Thank you. So my first question is, what inspired you and your husband to start a hospice business?
So, interestingly enough, our family's really been in the home care business for over 50 years. My father-in-law, Ab's dad, started a company called Mississippi Home Care back in the 70s, and it grew and evolved into a multi-state business called Camellia Home Health. And so my husband began working there and kind of involved with operations in 2004 and grew Camellia to a multi-state company, and we actually sold it, had the opportunity to sell it to a wonderful company out of Dallas in 2017. And so we'd been in the home care industry. Hospice and home care was something we loved and we were passionate about. And we sold in 2018, took a couple year break, and decided when the opportunity arose that we wanted to get back into it.
That sounds so fun. So what would you say the key steps are to starting a hospice business?
So hospice, for most people, there's two types of hospice, right? So there is a facility, in-facility hospice, which are pretty limited in most states. Availability. That's one part of hospice. And another part, though, is another piece or a way to do it is home care, which is where we take hospice nurses and caregivers to someone's home so that someone can have the opportunity to be at home during their last chapter of life, which for most of us, that's what we would want. And so for us, it's interesting, without getting too deep into how regulation works, the state of Mississippi has something called a certificate of need. So you can't necessarily just go and open one. You have to, the state says how many of these kind of organizations, companies are allowed to be in certain areas and markets. And so we actually researched and found a couple different companies that were in the process of selling, and we reached out to some different groups. And so we actually purchased 3 different companies that were privately owned businesses, hospice companies that were already existing. So we purchased them and then kind of flipped the switch, and all 3 of those different companies then became Arden, is how that worked.
Okay, so going off of that, how do you ensure that your team is well trained and also emotionally prepared for this line of work?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's all about the culture. And so when we started, that was really, with Camellia Home Health and Hospice, that was something that made it special, was the culture. People cared about caring for people in their last days, weeks, months. I mean, that was important, and that was the goal, and that was what mattered more than anything else. And so when we started Arden, we were very intentional about what our core purposes were, what mattered, what took precedence, and truthfully how we were going to care for people. And our slogan, our tagline is Mississippians caring for Mississippians. And so it was really important to us that the people that came to work for us, care was their first priority, and that we were all in alignment with that. And so honestly, we set that out as the mission, but then people kind of found us. And so it's been really amazing to watch those awesome people come to us and find us. And I couldn't be more proud of the team that we have. It's fantastic. We cover 90 counties in Mississippi, and we have over 250 people that work for us, Mississippians working for us, and it is just, or working together with us, and it is just a special thing. And we have some fantastic, amazing people.
That is so awesome. So what do you find personally the most rewarding about the work that you do?
Lots of things. To hone it in on one, I think the most rewarding thing is hearing people say, and this is going to sound crazy, but so many people say, I wish I had put my family member on hospice earlier. Hospice is this word that has this scary connotation, and people think, oh my gosh, this means that we've given up, and it's this sad, awful, terrible thing. But in reality, it provides a way for the families to have somebody come in and prepare them for what's next. Death is scary, right? And healthcare is really built around healing people and getting better. But the truth is, we all, as one of my children says, nobody makes it out of here alive. That's the reality. And so the idea that our team can come in and provide support and assurance and confidence during that period, so many people say, I don't know what we would have done without it. Just having someone who was confident and told you what to do next. And that is just so rewarding. And I'm just thankful that we can be there for people in their greatest moments of need.
Awesome. So piggybacking off of that question, what would you say are the biggest challenges of running a hospice business?
Well, just as a positive is that we can come to people and meet people where they are. That's also a challenge, right? Finding, we flourish and we thrive and we do really well in rural areas because people want to be home. People don't want to be in the hospital for months and months and months. But if you live in the middle of the Mississippi Delta and we need a nurse to come to your house, a lot of times it's hard to find the skilled staff. And so, that's a challenge. And a lot of our nurses and care team members, they work long hours, and they have to really do more than probably they would in a regular hospital setting. So that's a challenge, is getting to people and providing the care that people need and being available. When there's just, a nursing shortage, healthcare professionals in Mississippi are sometimes hard to find. And so that's probably the greatest challenge, is staffing.
Right. So going off of that also, what are some things that you wish that people understood more about hospice care that's maybe not something that's so obvious?
I think I touched on it a little bit, but really that it's okay, that it can be this really freeing, joyful experience. I tell people all the time, it's a touchy subject, and I have people text me and call me all the time and say, hey, such and such's parent is going through this. Would you mind reaching out? And the first thing that I say is, you may not want this today, and you may not want this next week, but if at any point you feel like you want someone to come alongside you and help you through this journey and guide you, that's what we do. And a lot of times people say, what? That's really what you do? And I will say too, there's been some great trending. This is kind of crazy, but there's been some books and some things out there, some kind of popular culture things that have kind of destigmatized hospice. And I think that's been really helpful. And I also think that the medical community is finally getting on board. USM Nursing, School of Nursing, they're doing an end-of-life education conference for their nursing students. I mean, that's really important to talk to people about and to train these professionals to understand how do we approach it? How do we... because at the end of the day, and I say this to everyone, and think about, we're all going to die. It's just how it works. But think about in an ideal situation, how would you like to go? And how would you like your last moments and time to be spent? And for me, personally, I'd want to be at home in a place that I'm comfortable, where I'm not hooked up to machines, surrounded by strangers. That's not what I want. And so I'm so thankful that we're able to provide that for people. And hopefully we'll continue to be able to do that for many, many years.
That is some great input and advice. Finally, how do you see the hospice care business evolving in the next 10 to 20 years?
Great question. Well, it's evolving. Really, one of the reasons it's growing. It is a growing industry, and I'll tell you why. Number one, the American population is aging. People are not getting younger, and traditionally hospice patients are in their twilight years, end of their life, and that's not going to change. Also, additionally, there's so many people that are caring for parents and grandparents and trying to make decisions about someone else's medical care. And I think people are really researching and looking for opportunities that are looking for ways to bring comfort and to do it right. And so I think the conversation is open, and I feel like you're going to see a lot more. And then also I think in terms of healthcare and healthcare cost, it's much more cost efficient for insurance companies and Medicare and Medicaid for people to not be in the hospital. And so there's a cost benefit, and I think that's been realized, but I think more and more it's going to be really promoted, because it's a much more, there's so many positive things, but the cost efficiency of it as well is important.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you so much for talking with us. And once again, I'm Ella Pierce for the Burg Podcast.
In our next interview, Alicia Williams interviews the owner of a local acting studio about navigating the entertainment industry in the South.
I'm Alicia Williams for the Burg Podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Tammy Nichols. My guest is the founder and owner of That's a Wrap Acting Studio in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, established in 2014. With a wealth of experience in guiding aspiring actors, especially in the South, Tammy has built a strong reputation in the industry. She studied radio, TV, and film at California State University before completing her bachelor's degree at the University of Southern Mississippi in 2001. A former member of the Screen Actors Guild for 15 years, Tammy remains deeply involved in the acting community as a coach, headshot photographer, and mentor at That's a Wrap. Tammy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so tell me about your journey. Where did it all begin for you in the entertainment world?
I guess I would say it started when I was 4 years old, watching TV in the 70s, seeing actors and kids on commercials. If those kids could do it, I thought, hey, I can do this. They're doing it. Why can't I? Asked my mom, how do I get into that industry? She said, oh, well, you have to go to Hollywood. And so I said, okay, well, let's go. And she said, it's too far. We can't go to Hollywood. So then when I got 18 years old, I went to Hollywood, and I stayed for about 13 years learning the business, taking acting classes, seminars, doing whatever I could to learn the business. And so that's where it all started for me.
What was that transition like from going from Mississippi to California in the acting industry?
Well, it was fun. It was a lot to learn, but just being from Mississippi and moving to a place like Los Angeles was challenging, but I did it. I stuck with it and learned a lot. Small town girl moving to Los Angeles, but I would do it again in a heartbeat.
What was your very first job in the industry, and how did it shape your career?
First job that I can remember in TV and film was a local bank commercial in Mississippi in the late 80s. And just being on set, meeting everyone, it made me realize, yeah, I love this. It's definitely something I want to do for the rest of my life. For your listeners, when they get a chance to be on set, they're going to know, okay, this is something I really want to do, or nah, I don't think this is for me, because there's a lot of waiting around.
What's a common misconception people have about breaking into the film industry?
I think most people think that it can happen in 6 months. Yeah, it happens for some people. Things just kind of fall in their lap and it happens. But it usually takes years and years of hard work and dedication for something like this to happen. You got to work, you got to have drive, you got to have passion, and you have to stick with it. Just like anything in life. You have to stick with it. If you want to be a doctor or lawyer, it just takes time to become successful in whatever it is that you enjoy. Something like acting, there's a lot of rejection, there's lots of challenges, but you're learning from it and you're growing from it, and you don't know where it may lead in life because there's so many different things you can do in the acting industry.
Being that acting is an industry where rejection is so common, how would you, as a coach, mentor, define success?
You've learned something. So maybe you didn't get the part, or maybe you didn't get the role you wanted, or not where you think you should be, but the journey that you've had, you've learned from it, and you've grown, and you've met people. So there's positive that will come out of it.
So how exactly would you recommend someone to start out as breaking into the industry?
I would say get involved in your local theater. Do as much as you can. Debate team. If you're fortunate enough to have an acting studio, get involved, go to class, practice, come to class ready, prepared, off book, have everything memorized, and just get involved. Do as much as you can. If it's learn how to ride horses, learn how to swim, anything that you can do to add, because they're going to need actors who know sign language, actors who knows karate and dance. So those things will help you in acting. The more you know, the better chance you'll have at getting a part. You can create an Actors Access account, start submitting yourself for local jobs, practice and grow, and then build your resume, build your demo reel, and then you're ready to start looking for a talent agency. And to find legit talent agencies, that's, you go to SAG.com, SAGAfter.com, look under resources. A child can without the experience, but if you're an adult, you need to have a resume and a demo reel to present to talent agencies once you start looking.
Okay, so being that you are aware of the acting scene in California and Mississippi, what are some of the major differences that you've noticed?
The difference in Hollywood and Mississippi is the knowledge and the information that's given. Hollywood, Los Angeles, they all seem to be on the same page of the information that they give, where in Mississippi, you get a lot of different advice, a lot of different information. That's one thing I've noticed about the difference in Mississippi and California. But of course, California is where it all started. It started back east, but then they moved out to California because of the weather and other reasons when they took Hollywood to Hollywood. But I would say just the information and the advice that's given is different here in Mississippi than Los Angeles. And of course, Los Angeles, the actors seem to be a little bit more driven because they moved there to do this. Where in Mississippi, we're just here. It's more available now because we got Louisiana, we got Atlanta, so it's not that far. So in Mississippi, the actors didn't have to move to do this. So it's a little bit more laid back in our state.
So seeing the strike occur, how exactly as a SAG-AFTRA member did that affect your opinions based on how the industry would evolve over time?
Well, I think that the strike definitely helped actors in the future because now there's certain laws that are in place where the actors can't be taken advantage of. So I feel like SAG did a great job. They do a great job, and they're passionate about protecting the actors. So I feel like it helped, definitely for future actors, the changes that were made during the strike.
What's the wildest or funniest audition story you've ever witnessed?
I guess it was one of my students who was Miss Sherry Plumley. She was an elderly lady, so she got a lot of the interesting auditions where the granny riding the Harley Davidson, the granny at karate class. I mean, she got the most interesting, funny auditions. And some of her auditions were definitely the funnest and the most to record and send in. So, that it's never too old to do this. If you watch TV, you watch movies, in your 70s, there's plenty of roles out there for everybody. from 5-year-old to 70s and 80s. They need everybody for acting, all different looks, short, tall, doesn't matter. That's the great thing about acting. They need everybody.
What message would you like to share with aspiring actors who may feel discouraged by the challenges the industry is facing right now?
Well, everything in life is a challenge. So if it's something that you love and it's your passion, I say stick with it, because as you grow older and you have a career, you want to be able to make money in something you enjoy doing. So if acting in this industry is something you love and you're born to do this, stick with it. You never know where it may lead. You may end up opening an acting studio called That's a Wrap. Who knows? It can lead to so many different things. You may end up being a makeup artist on set, a school teacher on set. So many different things and opportunities that can be done in this business.
As AI and automation grow, how do you think they'll affect the authenticity of human-driven performances in acting?
Well, the thing about AI that I don't think they'll ever figure out is the human emotion. I don't think they will ever be able to create an AI that can feel. So and human emotion is extremely important in anything that we watch. So when we're watching a TV show or a movie, if the actor's not feeling the emotion, then it's not interesting to us to watch. That's what makes us want to watch it. When they're feeling, then we're feeling. We're moved in the audience. And I don't think that's something AI will ever be able to do.
What's been the most rewarding moment since starting That's a Wrap acting studio?
I think the most rewarding moment is the people that I've met, like yourself, and the relationships that have been built through the studio. And when I started That's a Wrap, that's not even anything that I even thought about. But as time went on, I realized, people are becoming friends, and we've had a few people get married that they met in acting class. And so that's been the most rewarding part, just the relationships that have been built through the studio and friendships. And I guess the next rewarding part is helping Mississippians get into this industry the right way without spending too much money. Because there's lots of companies who like to go to small towns, and they've done it since I can remember being a kid, hearing it on the radio. Hey, do you want to be famous? Do you want to be a star? Come over to the Ramada Inn on the hill, and then we'll tell you how you can audition for this. But then they ask you to fill out your checkbook and spend a couple of $1,000s, when some people have had success with that, but you don't have to spend $5,000 to do this. You do not have to spend that. So that's one thing that I feel is rewarding, is I have helped a lot of local Mississippians not get taken advantage of in the industry.
Thank you so much for talking with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm Alicia for the Burg Podcast.
In our first audio essay, Ella Pierce reflects on the culture shock of moving from Central Illinois to Southern Mississippi for college.
I always knew growing up that I wanted to move out of my small, predictable farm town when I went to college, but I never knew how much of a shock leaving home and moving to a big city would be. I grew up in a tiny town in Central Illinois, which actually isn't even big enough to be considered a town. It's technically a village. Everyone knew everyone. There was only 30 people in my graduating class. I knew everyone's business at all times. Everything was so familiar to me. All my family was super close to me. All of my friends that I've had since I was a baby, and everything I had ever loved was right there in that tiny little town. When I packed up to move to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, everything had changed for me right then and there. I had visited Hattiesburg multiple times due to my family living here, but I didn't really remember much about the city, and I had never toured campus or ever really been on campus since I was very young. So the day I moved was basically my first time seeing my new home for the next 4 years, which obviously sounds pretty scary. At first, it didn't seem like it would be that different. It was still a college town, But I quickly realized that moving to the South meant more than just a change in scenery. The way that people talked, the way that people acted, and even the way that everyone handled everyday life here felt so new to me. One of the first things I noticed was how friendly everyone was, because in Illinois, people are nice, but they mainly just mind their own business. But in Mississippi, strangers will strike up a conversation with me anywhere. In the grocery store, when I'm pumping my gas, when I'm just walking around town, people are going to say hey. People even wave when you drive past them. At first, I didn't really know how to respond to random people just speaking to me, but quickly I realized that I can either just smile and have a conversation with these strangers or just continue on with my day. People don't really seem too offended when you don't talk back. It kind of just seems like they just want to say hey to you. I'm very social, so this wasn't an issue for me at all. And then there was the main difference, in my opinion, which is the food. In Illinois, I grew up on corn on the cob on the grill, my dad grilling for me every night, casseroles, and just general Midwestern comfort food. But here, everything is fried, covered in seasoning, and super spicy, which I love. The food grew on me very quickly, and now some of the food that I had never tried before I got here is my favorite food. But I also found myself craving the simple meals from back home, and especially the home-cooked meals from my parents. The hardest part was definitely leaving my family. Back home, they were always just a short drive away. If I had a bad day, I could go lay in my mom's bed, visit my parents, see my siblings, or hang out with my childhood best friends. Moving so far away from home, 11 hours, meant all of that was absolutely gone. Phone calls and FaceTime was my best friend freshman year. Freshman year was also definitely the hardest, just because of all the new adjustments I had to make and getting used to being so far from home. I remember the first time I got sick in college, my dad immediately brought me home with a plane ticket. Also, so many times my freshman year, my dad would just randomly send me humongous boxes of snacks and other goodies. Even now, homesickness hits me at unexpected times. A song will play that reminds me of home, or I'll see pictures of my siblings growing up, or my family at a gathering that I had to miss. I started to adjust. I learned to slow down and appreciate the Southern hospitality. I picked up on little things like calling people ma'am and sir without even thinking about it. The accents, the traditions, even the way people celebrated football was also different, but I quickly grew to love these differences. Moving away was hard, definitely harder than I expected, but it also taught me so much. It taught me how to adapt, how to be independent, and how to find a sense of home, even in a place that I thought I once hated the thought of living in. I don't know if I'll stay in the South forever, but I do know this experience has shaped me into a better person. I am much more willing to embrace the change, and for that I am so grateful. I'm Ella Pierce for the Burg Podcast.
In our second audio essay, Alicia Williams tells us how an HBCU pre-college program changed the direction of her college career.
I don't know what to do. There are so many options. Should I just do what everyone else is doing? What does TikTok say? These were all thoughts rushing through 16-year-old me's head preparing for my senior year. I grew up in a very academically inclined family, so college wasn't a question. It was an expectation. My mom is a neurologist, granddad a gastroenterologist surgeon, and 2 psychologists in the family. Medicine was in my blood, but I wasn't sure if it was in my future. To be honest, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Then, my aunt sent me a text. Xavier University of Louisiana, SOAR X. pre-college program, dorms, participants to develop socially and emotionally. I thought to myself, this sounds perfect. The 4-week program has a medical and humanities track, and it'll be the perfect time to experiment without fully committing. I immediately replied to my aunt saying that I was interested. Still, the idea of doing this alone made me nervous, so I invited a friend to join me. But before any of that, I had to apply. The application process was serious. I needed to submit my incomplete high school transcript, get 2 recommendations, and write a personal essay. The application process itself was very similar to college. After I received my acceptance, I felt like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. I was back on track, ready for whatever was to come. Waiting for the move-in date was nerve-wracking. My friend and I, both accepted, started planning our room decorations and what to expect. All of a sudden, it was move-in day. Everyone began sourcing out their people and the new environment. It is important to note Xavier is an HBCU, also primarily known for producing Black doctors. Before this experience, I didn't fully understand the impact of attending an HBCU. When I first arrived, I felt like I was at home. One thing was common between us all, and that was Blackness. A common trait that drew us all together and immediately casted away any anxieties. Growing up in predominantly white areas, such as Madison, Mississippi, skewed my perception of what classrooms look like. In most of my classes, I was either the only Black student or one of a handful. At Xavier, that was no longer a challenge I had to navigate. I no longer felt the pressure of having to represent an entire race. I didn't feel the pressure of being judged because of my skin tone. I didn't feel the pressure of being questioned about my hairstyle or texture. Instead, these were immediately accepted by those around me. I was given a space to freely express myself physically and socially. Shockingly, I ultimately chose the humanities track. Something about it captured my attention more than the biology courses. Within classes, we discussed topics of intersectionality, racism, the concept of third world countries, and so on. These topics weren't just interesting. They changed the way I saw the world. Through group discussions and one-on-one conversations, everyone had space to express their thoughts. Our conversations were raw and unfiltered, allowing for everyone to truly share their opinion. I appreciated the multitude of opinions and perspectives as it granted me with such well-roundedness. Xavier created a safe space for me as a Black girl from Mississippi, something I hadn't fully experienced before. Xavier gave me the courage to step into the unknown. It gave me a reason to take leaps and not look back. Xavier gave me a reason to embrace my Blackness in spaces where it may not always be accepted. It also reassured me that exploring complex topics and understanding different perspectives is something I genuinely want to pursue. The humanities track didn't change the way I saw the world. It helped me see myself more clearly. It gave me the confidence to choose a path that may not have been expected but feels true to me. Xavier gave me the reason why I'm reading this audio essay now. I'm Alicia Williams for the Burg Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Burg Podcast. This podcast is produced by students in Dr. Dave Davies' MCJ 344 podcasting class in the School of Media and Communication at the University of Southern Mississippi. The producer for this season's episodes is Salaudin Ahmed. Our music is from Upbeat. Cover art by Madison Calkins and Greta Graves. We'll see you next week on the Burg Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Suarez.